Swag.
Swag YOLO.
Special shout out to Twitter user Regresssion for telling me about website. This is the motherfucker who told me about time.
Question.
Yeah.
Question.
Yeah, go for it.
What is your name? So I'm not calling you Regression this entire time.
Yeah, Regs works. My name is Alexis.
Alexis.
Yes.
I hate that we have to do actual like podcast stuff and say our names because we have a guest.
Fine.
Reg, say your name and pronouns and whatever.
Yeah. They them.
They,
but
them.
yeah, no, like Regs or Alexis, either works fine.
Sick.
Anyone who says it out loud in full always makes me very confused. It's very funny that I've been in chats with Ramona enough that she recognizes me and shortens my name automatically, but goes for Reggie, which is just only person who's ever done it.
That's really good.
Delightful. I'm never gonna correct her.
Reggie Gugas.
I've been getting comments on the Boatknife YouTube where it's like, Avery, I think that people have forgotten your dead alias name and think that like Patrick Totally is your dead music name, and they don't know who Avery is.
Oh, dear God.
They think that I think they think that I'm Avery and that I'm dead naming you on accident or something to that effect.
Oh,
it's unfortunate that our names are like this.
It would have been funny if we were just Patrick and Patricia to begin with, but also like Patrick is my friend and I like using Avery with my friends because it's like my real name, and Patricia is a music alias. So I am Avery.
I'm Ricky.
Alexis.
Awesome.
Gotta say it as depressed as possible, so it's real and
serious. I'm your littlest brother, Ricky.
The acronym of all our names is ARA.
Sick. Greg, tell the people about what you do.
We're fucking in it now. Yeah. Hello. You can find me on the internet everywhere at Regression with 3 S's. I do a podcast. I do a music podcast. It's called Hot Singles. You can find it on the internet at Hot Singles, I'm pretty sure, which should link to all our places. Part of a lovely little podcast network called Export Audio. So if you do like this podcast, by the end of it, I'll get the plugs in early.
Yeah.
If you do like this podcast and you want to drop us $1 to get all our shit early, and you know it's a quite frightening amount of shit. Exportaud.io. But yeah, I'm a friend of Ricky's, and I'm here to fucking talk about some albums.
Wow.
We got three albums, all I think allegedly made by boys.
All of them about boys.
In some existential way, like
in many different ways. We're reviewing boys music.
2 of these 3 albums are Male Yuri, and your job as the listener is to identify which of those 2 those are by the end of the podcast. We're starting with Nascent, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Avery, you're you know about this shit. Talk about Alexander. This is your thing.
First off, big thanks to the Wonky Angle for briefly talking about this in the Some Stuff I Missed videos. Like sorry, I don't watch like your reviews normally, but those Some Stuff I Missed videos, I watch all the way through all of them. I love them very much. And Nascent was an album that he talked about, and he thought it was interesting but had trouble like saying that much about it. And I was like, oh, that's my favorite kind of album. So I listened to it eventually on a plane. And I was like, oh, this is cool. This is fresh. And we're doing like this. It's going to be like a 3-way on this podcast. So I have to.
There's 3. There's usually 2, but there's 3 now.
So I thought like,
albums. Yeah.
I should just recommend something. I should just recommend something that I liked that I can like talk about for like 30 minutes with my buddies. And then I listened to it again. And then I listened to it again, and soon it was like the only album I could listen to for a couple weeks. And it is now inside of me. Sometimes I like think about a part of it. Like I'll just remember like a bit of reasons not to, and I'll like choke up a bit because I just the memory of hearing it kind of like lurches something out of me. I think this might be my favorite album.
When I am editing these, I usually have to ask for timestamps for specific moments that you're talking about. You're really going to have to do a lot of work this time because a lot of this album is noises.
Yeah. It's 35 minutes of noises you have never heard before. This guy, okay, background. Alexander Panos is not on Upscale Records, but he's like buddies with a lot of the people on there, and his music is in a similar vein.
Which one's Upscale?
Like,
hold on.
Upscale, like neuro fuckers.
Okay.
Like Hudson Lee, False Noise, Cone Sound.
Okay.
A style of electronic music that I have trouble getting into, which like it feels a bit strange because like I'm autistic and I love music that gets stimmy with it. I love I love music that is like sound design heavy, that's like technical and well produced. But I am usually like kind of left cold by this kind of brand of hyper technical mainstream EDM. Like I just kind of get bored and overstimulated by it normally. I'm sorry, Hudson Lee.
It's not your fault.
It kind of is their fault, to be honest.
Off the top, you calling it EDM is an interesting starting point for this.
Yeah, it's like this is
an EDM album. Nascent is very much an EDM album.
Yeah, okay, we're on the same page then. Yeah,
it's the neuro influence is like runs strong throughout the whole thing. There's wubs, there's neuro basses, there are drops. The chord structure. This album has exactly one chord in it, and it's that specific floaty like major four.
Yes,
like, that subdominant that could either go like up to the minor six or down to the one.
I literally just, have this whole album is somehow in Lydian without ever really doing any work. It's so we have the same note. It's sitting on the subdominant and like just stacking fifths and like just loves that like. I mean, it's got all the same like frequency responses that you love out in Euro. It's that like really throaty mid range with like almost no sub and almost no sparkly top end, and like just stacks and stacks of throaty fifths, and just sits and does that over and over again.
I was able to convene with him briefly when he did a producer Twitch stream, and he saw eye to eye with me on this interpretation that he did. Like, he used to write a lot more harmonically adventurous stuff, but then eventually he just found a chord structure that he really liked. This is what Boys Will Be Boys means.
Yeah.
Trucking along.
He's just sitting in that kind of Western pop, harmonically ambiguous, subdominant zone. But like, even though it's so simple, I think it's utilized very judiciously and very beautifully, where there are like 3 times where he makes the leap to the major one in the whole album. Like once at the end of Reasons Not To, and once in Catch It. There's like a very like tonic moment in that, and that's like kind of the moment of rest. And then there's like a passing major 1 chord in the final. I think this album
Are you going into puppies? Is this time?
I'm trying to like set the groundwork.
Yeah.
I want to like meet it where it's at before I get to my like stupid fucking insane person reading of this album.
do you want to talk nurture first then?
No, not yet.
Okay, gotcha.
Because that so Nascent is a concept album. I'm going with like stuff that he has actually said about his work before I like start talking about insane person shit. He has said cleanly that this is an album about like kind of the frustration of wanting to become a functioning member of society.
Ooh,
That
okay,
it is
okay. I got you.
It's there is a yearning creature inside of this album that is like consists of like a vast internal space, and at some point like the first 5 tracks are built around kind of articulating this want. It's first through like a little sample of like the guy saying, "Oh, you gotta live in the moment," and then the girl saying, "I don't want a moment, I want a future."
I'm just saying, you gotta live in the moment.
The moment I want more than a moment. I want a future.
And after that sentence has been like articulated in earnest in Reasons Not To, the moment where it's kind of coming together, where he's mixing the artificial voice, him reversed, and also like him speaking normally, and he like kind of articulates his desire. There is a shift. There's a shift that happens during the track Dream Extinction, which is kind of like the moment when the internal space is pierced and begins to attempt to perceive the world. And it's this moment of just Dream Extinction makes me go feral. I gotta like turn that shit up every time that track comes on. Like
it's a big moment.
It's such a huge moment. And after, like, the album has a different sound after that. Like, he starts bringing in more Foley, more field recordings, eventually more acoustic instruments. So it's kind of like the outside world is revealing its terrifying breadth to the creature at the center of this album.
The breath of the wild moment. Elden.
Yes. And that comes to a head on... you go.
Yeah, no, just like... If there's anything to stress about those last like Equinox through to the end, like the orchestration is genuinely really gorgeous. Like there are very few electronic albums that like actually know what they're doing with orchestration, and this album's like just got such an even and steady hand with it. It's really fucking impressive.
I really haven't heard anything else that like starts out in this place of kind of like my main reference point was kind of like Orange Milk, like more recent Orange Milky kind of like whack ass super composed electronic music stuff, and then opening up into something else that feels so like organic, like genuinely organic.
So I don't know any comps for stuff that has the same trajectory. The only other record that I could think of that had the same like artfulness with composition with like a straight up electronic record is Motion Graphics. I don't know if that it's self-titled record from I think like
Motion
2060.
I think I know what you're talking about. Let me check. This fucking record! I love this record.
Yeah, it's one of my all-time favorites. Motion Graphics.
This is Avery Bait. You should listen to this actually.
Oh yeah, 100%. My favorite track on this is Mesotink Bliss, which is basically like if New York Counterpoint was a OPM track. I don't want to stress that too much, but
there is a song on here called Minecraft Mosaic. And it's from 2016. It's a very, very good album.
All right.
This one kind of flew under the radar, honestly.
Yeah, no, like, I'm so this is one of my... I don't have many personal picks that are like, this was a deeply underrated record that, like, should get more like, gloss than it does have. But it's... Whenever I'm asked for an underrated record, this is my go-to. It is...
No, yeah, absolutely.
One of the few things that actually feels like... again, another reference point for me is, like, the, like, transition point Jam City stuff. Like,
ooh, yeah.
The sort of progression between Classical Curves and Dreamer Garden, where like Jack Latham decides he wants to write pop songs and still is in the mode of like being a club producer, making like club retreads of, you know, sorry,
I have not
UK
heard
based
this
retreads
album.
of the motion graphics one or the Jam City one.
Motion graphics.
Yeah,
no, yeah, yeah.
I think
this came out on Domino.
I know,
and it
didn't get any push at all.
Fuck?
It's depressing.
That's crazy.
But yeah, like the electronic producers who decide they want to write songs are like in a weird space. Like they have conundrums they have to deal with, and like they all solve them in very different ways. And sometimes that means not being an electronic producer anymore, or like stopping thinking like one. And sometimes it means, you know, like finding ways, and it's a very rare skill to be able to produce, like finding ways of orchestrating, finding ways of arranging.
Yeah.
And like very few people manage to figure it out. And like, you know, Jack's solution was turning himself into like a pop punk like songwriter. And the motion graphics is one of the few reference points I have for like someone who's like fixed the problem of like electronic songwriting with like really fucking interesting orchestration. Yeah, Mezzotint Gliss is like a perfect track in my mind.
All right.
Like, yeah.
This is excellent to know.
Yeah.
Going back to like running through the track list.
Yeah.
Equinox kind of sees this conflict reaching a stress point. The terrifying breadth of the world is like, it kind of throws you against a wall at that one part. The for once.
For once!
For what?
I wasn't ready for him to yell. Like he did. Like I know.
Like a really confident white boy yell. It was scary.
I know these like artsy electronic guys always have the one track where they're going like speaking from the heart, doing a little spoken word poetry.
They don't
like,
yell
okay,
usually.
like, they don't yell you like you and suddenly I like the song again now that I know that he and he's clearly just never yelled before in his life too. Like,
Yeah, it's so good.
Cute.
Like it's so cute, but also still like really surprising and genuinely affecting.
Yeah. And on the final track, I believe these two worlds reach a consensus. I believe there is a harmony achieved, a contentedness with being this unique and vast internal space as the synthetic elements kind of come back in the final track, but also seeking connection, blooming where you were planted. Alexander Panos is telling me to go and be a dog. On that okay, I'm getting into insane person shit.
All right,
now.
Yeah, go.
This is a fucking Dog Boy album. This
Yes.
is an album about reconciling the paradox of feeling inhuman, irreconcilably inhuman, perhaps completely disconnected from human life, but still craving human connection, still wanting to be pat on the head and like given little strokes, like the kind of strokes that go all the way down your back and then like clasp the tail and then like shuck the tail like an ear of corn.
It's under the skin good ending, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's actually fine after all that stuff happens to her.
And this is kind of a, when this came out, a lot of people compared it to Nurture, and I too am gonna compare it to Porter Robinson Nurture in a way. I think, and not in like a strictly negative way, because they are very different albums, but they are similarly Jungian in conception.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a lot of philosophy in my background, but you're gonna need to unpack the Jungian, the bit.
Yeah. In terms of like male self living inside female self and vice versa.
Okay. Bisexual in the old-fashioned sense, yeah.
Yeah, in relation to nurture, that's how we were pulling at it a little bit.
Yeah.
I have a lot of thoughts about masculinity.
Yeah.
I think about it a lot, because I'm straight. And
nice.
Big ups.
I think like part of what kind of bothered me about nurture is that its soft aesthetics felt like a compromise. This is not soft masculinity. This is compromised masculinity. This is cowardly. It is it is
Damn.
Restrained. It's not. It's
I think part of the infidelity that you're talking about is because the album is centered around trying to make the album like it feels self-serving.
Nascent is also kind of centered around trying to make the album.
Yeah, but it's
because while he was making it, he realized that it also became a method through which he continued to not interface with humanity.
Yeah, but Nascent is still okay. That's fucking sick. But Nascent is like it tells that through song language, whereas Nurture just kind of says it and is an album that has slappers on it, and I guess that's where it's like it's kind of like an unfulfilled exploration of masculinity in the sense that all of the content of it is told through lyrics, while the actual music side of it is still just Porter trying to make slappers, which is fair. Yeah. That's an honest pursuit.
I mean, like, we get the opportunity then to read in like the disunity between form and content, and like there's fun tension in ripping the poor fucker to shreds. Like,
absolutely. Yeah. Like the most satisfying moments on Nurture are the ones where it indulges itself the most. Honestly, like the It Takes Two break on Musician is fucking classic.
Best moment on the album, probably.
Dulcite, which is literally not about the thematic content of the album, and it's just the closest bit to like rules. It's just the closest bit to a synth workout. So
yeah.
So, I have been thinking like a lot about expressions of soft masculinity since then. And I think like I've kind of zeroed in on a theory specifically relating to furry masculinity. And because with furry art, it's kind of taken for granted that furry boys are going to be kind of soft and adorable by default.
Yes.
Like even as furries just love to indulge in just the archetypal like stock masculinity, there is always a intrinsic sense of softness that is not compromising but taken simultaneously. It's
no matter how Bara you make the hot wolf, the new hot wolf, he's still going to be soft and you're still going to be able to pet him. And this is an intrinsic feature of Mr. Wolf from Bad Guy.
Yes, exactly. That no matter how smarmy he is, you can still play with his ears, and he will wag his tail.
Yes,
Fuck.
Yeah.
And it's not a compromise. It's not a subversion. It's because
he's a dog. Why would he not be a dog?
He's a doggy.
Come on.
Get real. This is the express, like on my second listen through Nascent, I realized this is a furry masculine album. It's dog boy music. It is
okay
because it is so stratospherically technical and pummeling in its conception, and
it's a Nurture sized album for sure.
It is sweet. It's delicate, but also like delicate in a decidedly masculine way. Like he has Imagine Dragons vocal cords. He chills on the same like Western pop harmonic ambiguousness for the entire fucking album. It's like it is like the masculine version of when like the headstrong female character gets to have an unashamed girly side. It is a boy being a boy. Boys will be boys.
Yes.
And
Okay.
for this I love it dearly. And
that's really cool. Okay,
and
I see it.
And through this, combined with the subtext stated in the abstract, of feeling inhuman, the arduous process of becoming human, and eventually perhaps a contentedness with remaining inhuman, yet seeking connection, in spite of it. This is the kind of album that makes me wonder, like, what the fuck I'm even doing with my musical career. I feel like this person has made my thesis statement a lot better than I ever have.
You need to start downloading more like orchestral VSTs and plugins and shit. You need to start getting like MIDI timbre drums in there. No, tom drums, not timbre. What is it? Timbre? Timpani.
There we fucking go.
Get glockenspiel. Yes.
We need oboes in here.
We do. Bringing it back to Nurture, one of the things that was interesting to me about Nascent was, I'm going to say the word compromise, but it's in a different way from the one we were talking about. I feel like there was definitely some amount of compromise in this album of approaching like season and change and shifting and emergence in a similar way to Nurture. But the thing that was really interesting to me about Nurture was, if you go back and check the original episode about Nurture, available on the Boatknife YouTube channel, give it a listen. Sound off in the comments, etc.
I love that podcast that you do called Boatknife, where you get to listen to you talk about Nurture.
I don't like it. I don't listen to it. The thing
I do sometimes listen to our own podcast.
you DM me quotes sometimes from that I said, and I'm like, thank you. Nurture is interesting.
Wow, that's so true. Me from 6 months ago. It's the best.
So true. Nurture is the most kind of like femme male album that still comfortably can exist in like a big stadium EDM context. Like it's by no means the most boundary pushing electronic album, but it's probably the most like whack ass kind of like femme album that you could play in like a big sweaty EDM setting and still get like not just have it be accepted, but have people fucking go to it.
Ricky, you're dancing around. Sorry, go for it.
I did find a video where someone had edited like footage of like a furry rave to Dream Extinction.
Yes.
And it worked. Fuck. It worked really well.
Okay, but nobody's throwing ass to Sutter. Nobody's doing this.
We would listen. Try. I know DJs who'd that particular wee makes me fucking lose it.
You can it's great.
It is.
You can try to do that.
I throw ass to the wee. I'm gonna give you the timestamp.
But in large, Nascent kind of sacrifices that component of danceability, of club viability, in favor of a more solid conceptual grounding, but also of in favor of being able to more thoroughly articulate this one point of trying to trying to communicate something. It's able to like have this kind of like fully realized experience of going from thought to imitation of sentence to song, and then settling down.
I think
like a lot of like the Bear
pl-
Granite. A lot of the spoken word stuff feels like vocal warm ups to me in a way that's really cool.
I think this album would go crazy in the club.
I think you need to get a CDJ. I think that's your next step.
I think a rave full of dogs would just absolutely. I'm gonna hook the otherkins on this album.
You're taking Bento. You're locking Bento in a room, and you're playing this for max volume until he does a cool dance.
I showed
I'm
it to.
I'm gonna put a picture of Bento in the description.
I showed it to.
Can you drop it in the chat so I know the context?
I showed it to Toby.
Yeah, hold on.
I showed it to Toby, who drew the illustration for Agnes and Hilda.
Yeah.
Toby identifies as a plushie.
Yeah.
And
Toby's fucking awesome.
And Toby told me that it could feel like the fabric. And like it, we had like a similar like Kinney bonding moment. I think.
Oh yeah.
I think I am going to kill the Therians with this album.
You're taking them to the vet.
Yeah.
Wow. Sonic vet.
Okay, Ricky, I am going to overrun this obscure electronic producer's fan base with animals.
Jesus Christ. Okay, good luck.
The right way to do it. Yeah. But yeah, Ricky, you were like dancing around like femme male and like like
I'm imagining.
Yeah, no, like okay, we're constructing the imagined audience for this to the exclusion of like particular kinds of feminine male people who already exist, right? Like you're dancing around saying
constructing audience is good because I'm gonna go into that with Pig Destroyer a bit too.
Yeah. So like I mean like okay, the I have problems with this record. I don't love it clearly as much as I mean Avery. I know you think this.
I like it. I don't like it as much as her, but that's because she's off some shit.
Yeah, no, exactly. I am just flat out saying it. It's on my mind because I submitted my first ever academic journal publication. I hope it gets picked up, but it's about femboys.
Hell yeah.
So it's just like stuck in my head. It's ratcheting around like like marbles in a marble whatever they're called. Pinballs in a pinball machine. That's a better metaphor. This album's impenetrable in a very literal sense to me. Like the structurally, like everything Avery's described is like totally on point. I'm totally on board. Moment to moment, like texture wise, what we often get is like a very like it's hard to describe because it's very singular and quite unique. But I feel like you get a very like elongated and long, usually filled with reverb tails, like flat bed upon which ideas bubble and like dip their heads above the surface and then like dive back down. And this is the sort of pattern and the like way it's arranged is like this long extended like bedrock of harmonic stasis on which like ideas like crest and build. And sometimes that's from silence in its most dramatic moments. It's like vocoder breaking through silence, but often it's like synthetic or like very particularly composed sound design elements like bubbling up out of a bedrock. And what I found was I could hear almost in the way that like we were criticizing Nurture for being so reliant on its textual material that it loses its form. I could feel the form doing so much storytelling that I didn't feel like the content was like actually dragging me through because I couldn't actually get like narrative development out of the texture. The texture wasn't actually doing the work I wanted it to do, which was such an uncanny and weird experience. It felt constantly like there were like pop songs that had been constructed in the background that had been fully like ripped apart to the point where like I'm trying to like listen in and anticipate what those pop songs are and can't actually grasp them.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I've had that with...
I do not.
I have that with a good amount of records. I don't have it with this one. I have that with a lot of Orange Milk stuff, honestly. Like when I try to get what like you talked at one point about Seth Graham a while back and his stuff. I get that with him, where it's like a lot of the time I feel like there is like a classical piece that is being referenced or torn apart that I'm not really able to construct in my head. I don't really get that here, because
I completely disagree.
I feel like I'm being whisked along a good amount. There are still points where I'm just kind of like nodding and saying yes.
There is a specific movie I play in my head every time I listen to this.
Ooh.
It's about a
but
dog
the way
boy.
the way I heard it. The way I heard it the first time, if we want to tie it into more shit, I feel like this is a better album about AI than Proto was.
I can get that feeling. But like, I mean, Proto's got some weird pastoral bullshit going on of its own that feels a lot more aggressive. Like, straight up.
No, absolutely. Proto is a very aggressive record that has really cool moments on it. But, like, with this, it eschews the notion of, like, trying to literally work with AI to more so, like, try and articulate the process of constructing something from inorganic material into I think the cover art's really good for that. I've been looking at this cover art. This cover art's fucking great. It's
cover art is great.
It's like
It definitely has like the dual nature of the album kind of expanding and turning into something else. It's split down the middle.
Yeah.
But it also has like the little nondescript jellyfish. There's like one like visualizer thing, teaser thing that he did where that middle jellyfish thing is morphing around and it kind of looks like AI art morphing. I'm allegedly. So there is a little AI fuckery on this cover art, perhaps.
On reasons not to. It also says that like the weirdo fucky voice generation stuff was semi-randomized, which again, which is about as AI as most AI art is.
But I mean, I think this is very tasteful and deliberate in the way it uses it. I can't think it was either like Russian or Greek, just from the weird like phonotactics that end up falling out of this particular generation.
I actually do think if the little jellyfish thing in the middle is AI generated, it's one of my favorite uses of AI in album covers.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Because like that's the synthetic core inside of the vast naturalistic space.
With like these really nice like kind of iPhone pictures on either side. iPhone pictures that are again, electronic imitation of the natural world that achieves natural beauty.
Damn.
It's crazy that this fucker's from Illinois.
They don't fucking have C's like that in Illinois.
They do not have beauty in Illinois like this. It's crazy.
I sent this album to Sean Booth because I was like, it was the most excited I've ever been about an electronic album since I heard Confield for the first time. And he agrees both that it's good and also that it is dog boy music.
That's crazy, dude.
Wow. He said, I suspect many would call this deconstructed, but it sounds very complete. And also, like, along with my kind of explanation of why I felt this had like a transcendent furry quality, he said that there's something there about like pop classical dichotomy, and also that it's a very American thing. And I think he's right.
Yeah.
Damn.
I'm interested now whether like there's something about my particularly British sensibility towards pop that's like rubbing slightly against this. So again,
okay.
I'm trying to complete completing the thought. Like what I was getting to, like I have a particular like way experience of listening to this, which is about that like effectively like it's not deconstructed. It was never constructed in the first place, but like there feels like within this harmonic stasis, a very particular pop vocabulary that's being drawn upon and that is never like broken. Like even in the moment, even in the scream, to be honest, like I never feel that like cool vocabulary of like, you know, fucking Spitfire era Port Robinson is ever fundamentally broken. Like the wubs, the like harmonic vocabulary, like everything is just there and it's staying there. And it's the bedrock.
Because the furry boy is still a boy.
Yeah, no, this is what I'm thinking. Like, okay, so at one level, this is partly about like a trans angle on this, and I'm fully aware that if I go back to last year and I listed my favorite albums, I was more 20. I remember realizing in 2021, like if I listed my favorite albums, all of them were by trans feminine people, like literally every single one of them. And like I don't know, I don't want to draw like very strict parallelisms between the kind of work that trans femme people make and the things they actually like are like in a generic sense, because I don't think there's a useful thing to be drawn there. But like on a basic level, the like we agreed, like there's something deliberately and explicitly masculine coded about that like bedrock in, you know, like wubby neuro / like early unreformed EDM.
It's
like,
really
Café.
like the electronic version of like technical death metal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the problem I get is on the one side, the trans angle, which is that like at no point does it ever feel a need or desire to break away from that. And I know that is implicitly criticizing the boyishness of the album, and I wish it wasn't able to be explicitly read as that. But
Yeah.
I felt desperately like I needed more from it.
I can
and I didn't get
see
it
that.
because it was
I do think
it was so relentless and cling to it. Yeah.
I do think this is an incredibly cisgender album.
Yes.
But in that sense, I do kind of love it because it is. I feel like Alexander Panos kind of understands masculinity way more than any like alpha male doofus does.
Oh no,
this is a guy who's thought about things. Going back to it's. I'll say it again on here. It's more queer to be a cis straight guy with good taste than it is to be like a gay trans person with no taste at all.
I kind of get it,
and I stick to that.
But I mean, like, it's about how you embody it and how you like reflect.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Like, this is a mastery.
This is a cis dog boy album. That's fair. Fair.
But yeah, the other point I was getting to was I said penetrability for a reason. Like this album, because of the way it's texturally arranged, feels like it's keeping me at a specific arm's length the whole way through. Like it very much wants to be like, okay, there is space that you're allowed to come into and know that I will punch out of it. And like, that is like between the like bedrock upon which this album like establishes its harmony and does not let go of, and the like bubbles of like text or, you know, temporal interest or whatever it might be. Like there's a gap there between like where I am sitting and the vulnerability and the threat of dissolving this all that I'm gonna hold, and where you are allowed to observe as a listener. And that space is maintained so precisely the whole way through, and like only ever increases towards the end. Like you only end up getting more and more stuffed in this gap.
Yeah,
between
the final moments of this album is like just stock tender male pop kind of.
And that's my favorite stuff on the record, honestly, is when it does like let itself breathe like that. Like that's such a good closer.
But yeah, so like the sense of like almost lacking intimacy, like this album's incredibly cisgender. It's also like I'm very confused about the vocabulary, but like unsexualized in a weird way. It's incredibly boyish. It's incredibly like removed from any sense that like intrusion, or I'm literally using these kinds of like gesturally psychoanalytic words in that sense. Like
this is a very Bros Before Hoes album.
Yeah, no, you saying desexed is really interesting.
Yeah,
like I agree, but I had never thought about that.
Listen, like Alex, I'm sorry if you find this. We're just like this. Like,
no, we're kind of just saying shit at this point, but I'm pretty sure we're correct.
Of course.
Alexander Panos, come on the podcast.
Oh my god,
please
do it forever, please.
Fucking would be lovely, but like I think there's something to be said about this record kind of living in the EDM mode of the drop, where like we have the pre-drop and then the drop and then the post-drop that takes up and consumes this entire record. There is one notable drop and a before and an after.
Yeah.
I think when we talk about this, we're talking about EDM more generally. Like, it's not specifically a thing with this album. It's more so like when we talk about music.
This is fundamentally a form, and it has stuck to that form, and it like carries with the kind of implicit possibilities for intimacy that form has.
Yeah, kind of. But I'm not trying to throw a wet blanket on what you're talking about. I'm more so like interested in like that mode of stadium EDM is really interesting because of how desexed it is in a way. It's so communal, but there's like so little sex involved in it directly. Like, nobody is listening to Avicii while they're fucking. I hope not. Like,
you know, someone fucking has. You know, in fact,
okay,
like,
but you
tens
can,
to hundreds of thousands of. Yes, this is absolutely correct.
But it's like,
if you fuck to Avicii, please tell us in the comments.
Yeah, sound off.
I would peg a man to Dream Extinction.
You don't have to peg, Avery. You don't have to peg. God damn it. Okay, but like, it goes into this broader thing of like beauty without sex, and how that is something that is a through line with a lot of mainstream like mass market culture. Like, I guess EDM is like subculture technically, but like, it's still close enough to mainstream that it still like has a lot of that beautiful and sexless element to it. Nurture is a hornier album than this, which
I am in agreement with a lot of this. I think the strong EDM influence is part of why it like fits into my furry masculinity reading of it. Because it is like I think like valuable context is listening to this guy's like early stuff, the stuff that he released as Babelcon, because it is just like Neurostep, or like listening to other like upscale records guys, because I do think that context kind of like gets you more into this, like you know how if you're listening to the like the Autechre 1/6 sets, that album feels different when you know that it was played live. It is abstract and kind of desolate sounding, more than usual, but there are crowd pleasing moments. Sean told me that like during the part with the church organ, like the I'll give you a timestamp for that.
Okay, thank you.
The like the crowd would start like cheering in the silent bits.
That sounds crazy.
Oh my god.
So I do think that like this album has a very 1/6 set type energy. Like, it feels like it's abstract. It's very it has it's 35 minutes of sounds you have never heard in your life before. But the crowd will go wild during parts of it, I think.
That's interesting. I want to see this guy play live. I want to see a live show from this motherfucker really bad now.
Yeah.
When we ask for more from Alexander, Panos, Nascent, as we can do or cannot do if we wish to, we are trying to identify if there is any sex in the drop. We're trying to figure out if the touch is intimacy or if the touch is like if the touch of the EDM crowd is a deeply selfish thing, and if that's good.
I mean, a touch can also be a fist bump, and that's kind of okay. But like,
yes,
so
yeah.
I'm just like, when I'm thinking about the like, what would I? Where am I thinking about getting? Maybe if not like the kind of like horny or even trans feminine like breakages, or even like queer breakages of the form. Like, who has done this but has managed to get the kind of like expansive sense of content? And I'm just like. The like vocoder core, like James Blake and Imogen Heap, like they just have a sense of like melodrama, and that's like a more expanded sense of the kinds of textures of human relation that come out of like kind of more like romantic songwriting. And like, okay, yeah, explicitly this is about me thinking that the like, you know, dude bro boy harmonic like mode that we're in is like limiting to the emotional texture that this record can get to. But like, I kind of think it is.
Fellas,
like,
I think like I think you're reacting to just the sharply introspective, insular nature of the album. Like, it's an internal space. It is a.
Oh yeah,
That's true.
It's directed selfwards.
But that's weird for an EDM album.
I mean,
and
like, if I'm listening to
that's
this,
not good, weird or bad weird, but it is weird, and I think that's
it's
where
remarkable.
More
it's
so Regs and less so me is having friction with it.
Yeah, it's not so much that I don't agree like with any of the analysis. It's more that like I want to, like if I consider this both in the mode of the like tear out neurofunk whatever, or if I think about it in the like Orange Milk artful like constructed electronic music, it pulls me in different directions that don't satisfy either of the like wants that I have out of either of those spaces.
Yeah, Orange Milk doesn't do drops.
No, really. But like that's not a fault of the. That's not a fault of like. Okay, it's partly a fault, but the idea that I would like force a record to conform to any one particular way of listening to it, and
that's how I felt about Nurture. Like, I felt like its tender side was kind of underdeveloped, and so was its like more masculine indulgences. Like I felt kind of pulled apart in that album. Like the big like melodic dubstep drop on Something Comforting, I think is kind of compromised by the album's like slick, slightly weeby aesthetic.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's a way worse record. Like, this is far more compelling. It's just also compelling in ways that like leave you with point of dissatisfaction, and also like searching for more kinds of intimacy that it deliberately chooses not to offer me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think we've been going for almost an hour on this one record, so we should move on.
I have one more thing. I have one more thing to say.
Okay. Tag in.
I exactly one criticism of the album.
Ooh, get his ass.
There is one moment of unintentional comedy, on Reasons Not To, kind of near the end, where he's like saying the thesis of the album, but he's kind of like glitching out. He's and there's a moment where he's like, I want more than a moment. I want a few weeky week. like it glitches out and he just says, I want a few weeky week. I'll give you the timestamp for that as well. Makes me kind of giggle every time I get to that part. And I'm like, yeah, I also want a few weeky week sometimes.
You can suss. What can you do, my feminine element? And bang it. Okay, another one in the books. That's Boatknife. Okay. We're now going to be talking about Pig Destroyer's seminal 2001 album, Prowler in the Yard. Pig Destroyer is... they're kind of a grindcore band. They're more grindcore than anything else. They're very impure grindcore, at least in terms of like very rigid metal terminology.
I don't really believe in metal subgenres.
I believe in some metal subgenres. I think that black metal is a thing, probably. But there are 5 genres that are just speed metal.
I think instead of like giving them all names, there should just be like sliders for like how fast the tremolo guitar is, and also like how shitty the production is.
Yeah. Yes.
So
that's
like
fair.
Like slow guitar, really shitty production is sludge metal. Slower guitar, better production, that's doom metal. Fast guitar, incredibly shit production, that's black metal. Like that, you got like 90% of metal subgenres like just with those two sliders.
People are gonna eat you fucking alive for saying this, even though you are correct. I picked this record because when I brought Songs for the Deaf onto the podcast, Avery kind of confided in me that she really hasn't listened to much. You were an anti-rock girl for a lot of your life. Not anti-rock, but just like you haven't.
I was like elitist about rock music for my adolescence.
And you haven't really, and that kind of extends into metal. So like, when we were talking about Songs for the Deaf and Ulver before that, and you were having really positive responses to those, I was like, there's some other records that sound like this. So I wanted to bring kind of a louder, something that had a lot more, like a produced metal album onto the pod to see how Avery would react to it mostly.
Okay, some extra lore.
This was my pick for it. Yeah, go.
I remembered warming up to a lot more like metal music than I did just straight rock music back in the day. I can't like remember the names, but like there was a bit where I was kind of slowly getting into metal. Have I told you about my Ed Guy thing? I had like an Ed Guy thing for a bit.
No, what's that?
Ed Guy is a power metal group.
Oh.
And for a bit, Rocket Ride or something. What's it called?
Rocket Ride, yeah. Okay, I'm seeing this now.
That was like one of my favorite albums for a bit.
What the fuck is this?
Oh,
that's crazy.
This artwork rules.
Don't you run away now, don't you be afraid. Now there is a meaning. Whoa, don't you run away now, don't you live a lie. There's one life struggle, take it right.
Holy shit. German power metal band.
I guess
did not know about
I guess
this.
it kind of like reminded me of music that people used in like Marble Blast World Record compilations.
It's like Fail Army intro music type shit. I partially brought this record on because it fucking whips. Also, I just brought this on for me a little bit.
Yeah, this is excellent fucking album actually.
Yeah, I mean it's a fucking great time.
It is.
I thought okay, the fun thing about Pig Destroyer that made them kind of accessible for these purposes is that they just don't have a bass player on this record, and for most of their discography they have not had a bass player. I don't know if they do separate takes or if they just mix it really, really well, but it's just like they produce some parts of the guitar track like it's a bass, and that fills in for the bass parts, and that makes it like really fun, really gives it a really good energy live.
That's like the one reason like I wasn't really able to get into like a lot of 90s prog metal is because the bass is like just this kind of farty little like gremlin in the middle of
fucking metal records that don't give me the bass. I want the bass. It's the most important part of the record. Okay.
I mean, this is genuinely why I never graduated out of post-punk. Like, this is just I was addicted to post-punk bass lines and like
I don't like post-punk that much. The thing that I do like about post-punk most of the time is the bass, that they do have the sexy bass in there.
So like I am an electronic music listener. Usually the bass in rock music is not low enough. So like it just feels like the song is too tiny. And I would
and I think that's kind of the thing that's really smart about this is that you can't mix the bass low, because if you mix the bass low, you mix the guitar low, and then there's no song.
Yeah.
When I recommend it fucking immaculately produced record. Like, this was mastered on like a 4-track or something in one of their basements, and
this album sounds incredible.
To this day, it sounds like crystal clear. Everything sounds fucking gorgeous.
Also, like there, again, apologies for the inexperienced metal thoughts. I normally am kind of left cold by harsh vocals in metal, unless they're like straight up, they just sound like an animal. Like they're just screaming, and it just sounds like they sound like that. It normally like kind of feels like paradoxically there's not that much energy behind it. Like they're just making white noise out of their mouth. This guy is expelling his lungs at me throughout this record, and I feel it.
There's discerning syllables throughout the record and it's like punchy, and it's like the lyrics on this record are really, really good too.
You got to read the lyrics.
You got to read the lyrics.
This is like the best possible case for letting boys make misogynistic art again.
Yeah, no. It's like okay, we're moving.
This is where we're going.
We're moving a mile a minute. Let's. I want to back up to
production.
I guess we could go into like sequencing a little bit on this record.
Insane
if we wanted
fucking
to do.
sequencing.
We cannot. We can't really do a track by track because some of these are 2 seconds long.
Yeah,
but,
there are moments that I remember. I could not tell you which tracks they're on.
Yeah, it's kind of irrelevant.
Except for Hyperviolet. Hyperviolet is the best fucking song on the album.
Fully agreed.
I think it starts out with little edgy spoken word intro, which sets the tone of.
I just want to ask, do you have anything to like say about the intro, outro, spoken wordy?
The intro, outro.
I love them.
I love them.
But this album does have quiet moments. Like there are moments where the lyrics pare back, especially in the latter third.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to touch on, is that we go from this intro track right into like 2 massive, super technical, super rapid fire, quick short boy tracks, and then you get this really magical moment on Trojan Whore, which is the first like really big standout moment on the record.
It's the first headbanger. Like that's the first time that like the anger articulates itself and becomes like for a second it's like kind of sober.
Starts out as grind shit. Pulls back, goes again, then kind of pulls back a second time a little bit, and then goes into these like super, super heavy, satisfying riffs. It feels so fucking good after just being kicked around for the first 2 tracks, where it's like play like. Oh my god, it's these riffs that wouldn't really feel out of place on like a Melvin's record or something like that, but in the context of this record that's just been so bitter and kind of unfulfilling and pent up until that point, it just feels fucking ecstatic.
The moments of sobriety like ring out like a fucking immaculate beacon. And that those are the moments where I feel like the rock language of it kind of comes together and it gets headbangable for seconds at a time.
And it really is only seconds. Like there are like just fragments and pieces in each of those. Like I literally I'm looking at the track names. Like, should I actually say track names or tracks?
You can say track names.
I can say them, but I'm just like deciding to read them, process them, and say them with my mouth. It's just like there's some impedance in that process. But yeah, like,
that's fair. Yeah, I'm looking at some of these. That's fair.
Cheerleader Corpses, great track name.
Smile.
No, in those first couple like really really hectic bits, like the fragments are literally 10 to 15 seconds at a time before it's like literally kicking you in the side of the head and forcing you into a new groove. And like,
yes,
when it finally locks in on a thing you can actually hold on to, and Trojan Whore fucking does that. It's you said it already. Just like I wasn't prepared for how to listen, forcing myself to have to listen to this more like a fucking, I'm gonna sound like a fucking asshole, like power ambient at points. Like this really did absolutely absolutely force me to like, oh, we've got to listen to this. This is a series of fragments, not as a rock album with tracks in it. And
no, I mean, Avery, you were talking about this as a harsh noise record too, a little bit.
Yeah.
I do find myself like more easily acclimating to more extreme forms of metal because they kind of fire off the harsh noise neurons.
I felt like this was a good lead-in because it does have that kind of harsh noise sensibility that I figured that YouTube could probably get a little bit out of, while still being like, while still having riffs, while still having riffs and having those be the centerpieces where it's like, oh fuck, yeah.
No, the whole fucking point. The whole fucking point is it's not even like chill. It's like the whole fucking point is you need that like, okay, we've arrived at 50 seconds while we're in a fucking riff. We're in a fucking groove, and we gotta like stay in it for 50 whole seconds.
And there's a desperation to that too, where it's like, oh fuck, I gotta get into the groove now. I gotta lock in right now. Oh fuck.
So this is one element of contrast that makes the chaotic like elements of this record stick out so much more, because there are these moments of sobriety. There are also moments of sobriety in the lyrics, just tiny, like the lyrics to the lyrics to Hyperviolet just are not gory at all.
No. I think the trajectory of the thing is to get really emotionally desperate by the end, and like from shocking and like brazen to like, oh, I'm just like fucking turn the spotlight 180 degrees and like I get to do this about myself, and it is fucking like sad and miserable but still like punchy in the right way.
This album is a lot like Nascent by Alexander Panos.
Wow.
It's like it deals in the language of like super edgy stuff, but it's so pummeling and so well articulated that by the end of it you are just kind of in this like really miserable, yucky kind of like poopy headspace where it feels like you're just crawling through something. It's
kind of like
it emulates the feeling of obsession that it's talking about in kind of juvenile terms in a way that makes it feel so visceral. Like I posted it in chat at one point, but those lyrics on Starbelly where it's like, the shirt you bought for me, Christ, it hurts, like stars in my belly's going supernova. It's like, oh my god.
It sucks. Like Hyperviolet Starbelly is like, it is a sweet kind of like, they're stitched together in a way.
Yeah.
And like, for me, the one was okay, let's do this actually explicit one. The other day I masturbated to pictures of you at your birthday party. They were the only ones I still had. Like, like all of a sudden you can motivate every single awful, terrible, disgusting thing you've said in this album, because like ultimately you're directing it just as hard at yourself, and the whole like tenor of the thing is structured around like placing yourself in this world of disgusting bullshit. And,
so
like, you feel satisfied with the arc arriving to that point by the end.
Okay, this comparison isn't a joke. I think I was unfair to Juice WRLD back in the day.
Okay, talk to me.
I think for a while I was saying that like, what's the fucking song that sampled Sting? Juice WRLD. Lucid Dreams.
Yeah, Lucid Dreams. That's the fucking one.
I think that might be a good song, actually. I hated it when it was a hit, but like it is kind of a similar like just feverish misogynistic haze of just all the worst possible shit you think of after a breakup.
Yeah.
And this album has that quality as well. Like it feels like just misery and anger directed both at the object of your desire and at yourself.
Yeah, let's talk imagined audience, because that's important for a lot of metal music. With metal, it's kind of like metal guys have a really high tolerance for bullshit a lot of the time. Like, there's a lot of records that are just like experimental, like modern classical records pretty much, that are just labeled as metal and played with guitars, and people like them for some reason. I know why I like them, but I don't know why other people like them. But it's like, it's this thing where like, when you approach a metal album, you imagine like a really fucked up sort of guy that would like this thing, and you first say, oh, okay, that's crazy. That's crazy. The type of guy who probably listens to this, and then you listen to it and like it and feel like partially like a voyeur, but the secret is that everybody's doing that, and that's the fun thing. Everybody top to bottom is posturing, and everyone is kind of in on the joke, but also like there is still like a root core there of everyone collectively feeling like there is something being identified that nobody between the person making the music and the audience that is receiving it is able to properly articulate. That's buried somewhere in there.
There was one there was one moment that I was talking about this specifically like as a more like niche experimentally electronic listener. Like my closest point of comparison is History of AIDS by Prurient.
It's a fucking great record.
So I liked it more revisiting that as an adult. I might recommend that for the podcast. But
I would love to listen to that.
But
I would love to have Prurient talk.
But the main difference between that and Prowler in the Yard by Pig Destroyers, that people actually like listen to extreme metal.
No. I saw this shit in concert with people who were going fucking wild to this. Like, Prurient, all the dudes at Power Electronic shows, like, I don't know, it looks like they're having fun, but it looks like they're waiting for the bus, you know?
It's like...
And the guy on stage is going fucking crazy. Dominic's going crazy, and nobody's having fun.
Extreme metal is like the most discordant, unpleasant music that is enjoyed in a manner like pop music.
It's in that way, it is actually kind of like Nurture. Fucked up to say, but yeah, okay. Touching on the Hyperviolet Starbelly thing a little bit more. After we get Trojan Horror, we get the longest solid stretch of the record where it's just kind of like back to back to back to back solid short grind tracks with occasionally you'll get like these little wonky electronic interludes. And then that cuts off abruptly when it goes into Hyperviolet. And then we get this kind of 2-song streak of really slow kind of plotting.
There's a sludge metal moment.
There is a sludge metal moment that everyone on allmusic.com got very mad about. It feels very large, like very, very, very large. Whenever I go back and listen to them on their own, they definitely don't hit in the same way as they do after you've just kind of been getting kicked in the ass for like 15 minutes by all of these nightmare short tracks. And then the magic trick that it pulls at the end is you get Junkyard God, which starts out as a kind of another like slow sludgy thing, and then immediately picks back up into grind shit again by the end of it. And then Piss Angel is like a really solid slab of grind from the middle of the album, and then it goes straight into the outro, which is kind of a epilogue to the Jennifer prelude on the first track.
Yeah. Like,
kicks it.
At that moment, it was just like, oh, this is allowed to be a little schlucky. And that's... Yes. You get to be on the inside of the joke slightly. Like, you get to know that everyone else is, like, allowed to buy out of this. They get to, like, go home and put on a sensible, like, tracksuit or, you know, dressing gown and, like, you know, relax a little.
Just short aside, I am normally kind of underwhelmed by the way that metal albums employ electronics, but I love them in this.
This was their first record that had like a proper sampling setup.
There's some thrumming drones in this. There is some ambience. There is like the whole like ambient outro to the last song where they get the ring modulated vocals in there. And it's very tasteful. My favorite moment on the album is that crescendo at the end of Hyperviolet, where it's just like thrumming double bass drum with that drone in the background. The quiet.
Oh my god, the drumming on this record is so fucking crazy.
The the quiet moments on this album hit so hard. There's like another one in one of the 30-second tracks that I don't remember where he's just fucking screaming and there's no accompaniment.
Yeah. Oh my god. We don't talk about like raw performance stuff a lot on this show, but the fucking drumming on this, it is insane that these are live drums. It is like fucking crazy.
Performances are fucking great. I have to say, there was a moment in the Hyperviolet drone section where all the instruments dropped out, where I had a moment of genuinely intense panic because I had my first listen to this on a train, and I wasn't sure whether there was a station fire alarm or there was a weird noise coming out the train. Or...
That's fun. Ooh, that's spooky. I'm sorry that happened to you.
No, it's fine. It just completely fucking blindsided me. I had no idea where that noise was coming from. Again, because it was like a proper full rupture from most of the sound wall for the rest of the record.
Yeah,
like,
it feels like you got all the air sucked out of your lungs when it pulls back there.
Yeah, like there was again another one of the weird little tiny little snippet track intros, or I think it was a track intro where like it goes from like affected, like fed back and filtered through, and then the track explodes in and just hits really hard. Like there were moments of like electronic stuff which felt like fully of a piece with things that I know rock bands have always done and fucked up their own sound, but like the drone was just enough of a full break with the rest of the sound world that I was like completely disoriented by it in the best way. Like super happy with that.
It
moment.
is I think one of my favorite genres of art pieces are those that are counterintuitively restrained.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of restraint. Like it's crazy that the restrained part of this record is the part that's going extremely hard with the grind shit. Like it's crazy that that's the noise bed for so much of it. Yeah, no, it fucking hits. One thing I wanted to bring up, last point, I guess, from me on the topic of, I guess, the imagined audience is like, Tim Rogers at one point in his review, in his Labyrinthine review of Doom, talked about the cover, listening to Megadeth's cover of "These Boots Were Made for Walking." It was Megadeth or Motorhead or some band like that.
Yeah.
Their cover of Nancy Sinatra's "These Boots Were Made for Walking," and he said that was, as a kid, that was the first time that he realized that jokes didn't have to be funny. And
damn it.
I think about that in the context of this record, where it's like,
That sounds like such a Tim
it's
Rogers
a joke.
bit.
It's a joke, and everyone's in on the joke. But it's also extremely worrying and scary and genuinely upsetting.
It's very scary.
And I think it's very scarying. And that's what's compelling to me about this. And a lot of the best metal music does that for me. Regs, did you want to get into your thing with yelling a bit or no?
No. Just
I don't want to drag your ass if you don't want to talk about it.
Nah,
we talked about it.
Yeah, so like I don't know. I've had Hot Singles has had a historical complex relationship to when men are loud on podcasts, and like sometimes it's just like an uncomfortable thing, and like for my own sake, I realize every time I get into metal or more extreme guitar music in any sort of way, I like feel the like points where I bump up against the instinct to go like, why isn't this just like a really good like really aggro shoegaze record, or why isn't this a post-punk record? Like I want to drag it back not into territory that like tames the sound design, but like puts it in a realm where I don't feel emotionally tortured by it.
Got you.
Like
yeah.
I would simply like these guitars with like blast drums or double kicks forever. Like I could just listen to those textures forever. And that's just because I like am fully like enculturated with like coming to, you know, like loud guitars from indie rock rather than from, you know, like hardcore or punk.
Yeah, no, I approached this record from a background of getting into wacko music through just stealing shit off random people's charts on MU and finding noise records on accident and being like, oh, Who's this Mersbo guy? Oh, this is what a guitar sounds like. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was very much the, like, I was on the coattails, like, very much in age terms, just, like, a couple years too late for, like, London's great last indie scene.
Yeah.
And that meant that I was getting fed a bunch of 90s indie rock, and with it, you know, like, Sonic Youth is the, like, backstop behind all of that. And then, like, going forwards, it was a lot of stuff like anything from like the post-punk revival stuff like Block Party, Franz Ferdinand, Strokes, and on the other side, stuff that was like recreating a lot of the thick Pitchfork, who are like, we'll come to Deer Hunter in a bit, but like thick 90s collaborative, really emotive indie rock, and like recreating bits of that. Like I think Broken Social Scene's like the totem band for that kind of stuff. And like, that's not to say that music's anywhere near as extreme. Often it's like really, really gorgeous and pretty, and you know, kind of like weedy with it in places. But like every time you're like, okay, so what takes this and elevates it, and you're looking at like the noisier ends of that, or the, you know, the thrashier and more punky ends of that. Like it still comes from an origin point of like pop songwriting, and like, you know, like. What the platonic conception of this is not like Marsbo to me. It's like Velvet Underground, and like it's never fundamentally gonna change. Like
I did not have. I had a Velvet Underground experience. I definitely did not have the Velvet Underground experience.
Yeah, and I kind of have had the Velvet Underground experience in a way. Like that, this is like super formative for me, and like I'm never going to break that like desire to like get back to the like artful way of doing things is the way that like starts from a pop form and rips it to shreds with noise, rather than like starts with yelling and adds like musical complexity to it. Like it's just like a thing that's never going to be the natural orientation for me. So honestly, finding Prowler in the Yard like being an album that like had the really hardcore grooves to it, and had the like points at which I was like, okay, yeah, I can do the basic fucking bait thing of like, okay, the voice is a textural element. Like, it works. It absolutely fucking works. Mm-hmm. It's just that, like, for a moment, I realized, like, being, like, pummeled in the side of the head with kicks is an incredibly important experience to make the hardcore riffs work. And, like, that sold me on this record, and that was, like, 100% one of the most important, like, metal experiences I've ever had. Like, I kind of get it in a bit more of a meaningful way now.
I didn't pick this expecting you to dislike it, but I don't know. I picked it just kind of wanting to see how you'd react to it a little bit.
Yeah, no, like,
and that's really great to hear.
Yeah, way more positive than I ever expected I could have. Yeah. So
excuse me?
I want to do.
Okay, my mic is connected. I just.
Okay. Yeah. Hi.
I had my formative years, wanting to be better and smarter than everyone. And that like kind of, you are a contrarian. That molded my taste.
You've come out of the contrarian closet at this point.
I have. I was the kind, like, if anyone ever told me that an album of someone's was like their worst, I would like check that one out, and like so like for that has led you down some wicked roads. You've told me about this a little bit. So I was saying that Volta was Bjork's best album for a bit,
which it's good.
It is good.
People are mean to Volta, but it's
not better than Biophilia. Come on.
It's not better than Vespertine.
Yeah. I mean, again, people go about for what they want to, but like, you know.
Yeah.
But
Vespertine is there.
Volta is so good, dude.
Yeah. That is how I managed to have a harsh noise phase at age 15, so that I could play it at the lunch table and watch everyone like look at me uncomfortably, so I could think like, oh, finally I have a power that you don't. So that
I wanted to do a very quick live react real quick. I'm going to post something in chat. This is the first harsh noise album I ever listened to and enjoyed, and feel free to listen to somewhere between 10 to 15 seconds of it. If you like, just click play. Let's go, like 3, 2, 1, go. 3, 2, 1, go. So with this record, this is a Sissy SpaceX self-titled record. Not the woman Sissy Spacek, the band Sissy Spacek.
Oh, you found it! I've been looking for
this. Yes. This record is... I listened to this record before I ever got into grindcore, and it was, like, kicked my ass so hard in two different separate ways of, like, this being harsh noise that was so compact and rapid fire, which is still the kind of harsh noise that I usually prefer to this day, but also, like, this was kind of the first, not only was this the first noise record I ever liked, this is really the first grindcore record I ever liked. Like,
Yeah,
functionally, functionally, this is not grindcore. And
yeah, it's hiding in the background though.
As much,
I skipped to a random point and it was like kind of quiet.
Yes, it has spooky bits. This was like, from what I understand, this record was made partially out of them playing noisy, like loud, grindy metal live shows and chopping it up into a million pieces with tape, and putting it back together, and then making kind of like music concrete stuff out of that. And it's like, it's fucking, I don't know.
Musique concrète requires the manipulation of physical medium, lest it be mistaken for plunderphonics.
Yes, sir. I wanted to put this for, I guess, Ricky's background for this in the sense of like, this is where I am approaching metal from, in that I was into harsh noise as a kid, but what I was mostly into with harsh noise was the parts of harsh noise that sounded like metal, and I only recently came to that conclusion and have been seeking out metal that kind of fits into that.
Okay,
yeah.
But so, even still, this is in a different context where it's like,
contrary,
nobody's headbanging to this.
On the contrary, the first harsh noise album that I loved was Hybrid Noise Bloom, which led me down a very different path. Because Hybrid Noise Bloom...
You're way deeper into the sound design.
Because Hybrid Noise Bloom is cerebral. It is an infinite sea of psychedelic noises that kind of gave me my first like audio tactile synesthesia like eureka moment. Like, oh my god, the music is the music is shapes.
Hell yeah.
It was kind of like the first time I really got stimmy with it in my life. It was listening to Hybrid Noise Bloom by Merzbow. So that did like send me down a very different path than Ricky.
Regs, what was the first harsh noise album you ever liked?
One, I don't think I've ever loved the Harsh Noise album, but that's probably for lack of trying than anything. I'm looking at my autism playlist and trying to see what the like earliest like what was the thing that I held on here that arrived the earliest. The answer is all drum and bass. Like if you're asking what my quote unquote contrarian stuff was, it was listening to like London, the UK. No, very specifically not. As in, I was the fucker being like, no, dubstep comes from Croydon, not from Scotland.
Oh, okay.
Like trying to resuscitate like really. I mean, honestly, it was quite techie drum and bass, but also just like the dubstep that was going around in like, God, 2009 or so. Like I was being the like 13-year-old listening to the shit exclusive on headphones, never able to go to the club and hear it, but like. That was absolutely the thing I was like arriving at just as it was like cresting a wave of popularity. Like drum and bass moved much out of the UK's like dominant dance music culture, and dubstep replaced it, and then deep house eventually. But like that like had its lane and had its moment of contact with dubstep in particular, and got like really neurotic, really dark, really technical. And so I'd like, if I had to think of a track, like let me pull up an example of the sort of stuff that I would be like one of the statement tracks for the kind of nerdy bullshit that like marked out arriving at non-pop music. And like again, still incredibly pop sounding, incredibly indebted to like really musical drum and bass and jungle that preceded it, but just like, you know.
Okay.
So what REGS has sent us is a track called Underpass by Rockwell. They didn't say that. They just like kind of dropped it in the group.
Yeah.
I'm listening. This is classic Regs fashion for
yeah.
Fancy
This
Pop
is
Singos.
2009 on Critical Records, Critical Music even. Yeah, like
Okay. Yeah,
and
no, I hear
this is
that,
something
like,
I heard at the time and like I lost my shit about. Yeah.
in the way that you're really into kind of like the not. I don't want to speak for you, but you are into like a lot of kind of like moodier. The pop stuff that you are into is kind of in like a moodier kind of drudgier vein, you know.
Yeah,
A lot of the time. Do we want to go into
Are
Halcyon
you
now?
a Burial Untrue guy?
yeah, oh, absolutely. But like again, the True Burial is both the first record and also like Rival Dealer. Like this is the like. Absolutely, I love Burial, but I also love the trajectory that gets hyperdubbed from like 2005, 6
In my
all the way through
opinion,
to like
Burial never made a song better than Virtual Riot in it. That's a joke. I haven't actually listened to Burial ever. I just like saying that. I like.
Yeah, I mean, like this is I'm okay with the bit. It's just that, like, this was like genuinely the like. I don't want to say folk. Folk does a disservice, but like this is the like basic musical context. I've just been in and around like in the actual world for so long that like
Skrillex was an upgrade.
Not everyone's playing. Yeah, like. But it's not like Burial is coming out most club sound systems, but it was absolutely coming out the club sound system that I was at like last Saturday, very literally. Like
You were talking. No, you talked to me sometimes about the club, like cafes you're going to that are just playing Autiker when you walk into it.
Yeah.
I was like, what the what the fuck is going on in the UK?
There is an ease. But, I mean, I live in the city of Bristol now. I'm from London originally, but I'm in the city of Bristol, and Bristol's got such an ease with particularly dubstep and drum and bass, and also like dub and reggae. And just integrating that into like the bass sound world of everything that goes on in the city's music and cultural life, that like you get just surprised by the amount of like stuff that gets perceived as challenging or formally like not for public consumption, that is just like base level understood as like not just normal, but like actively part of like the world that we're cultivating together. Like, which means that like, yeah, for a very long time, like Digital Mystic style dubstep has just been like the baseline, the like formal like starting point for a lot of my listening. And that means that Burial comes in as like a nice and really artistically complete addition to that, but not distinct. It's not something that like lives out in the hinterlands, and that like the drum and bass that I was listening to ranges from like beautiful and placid and like absurdly like easy in inverted commas, all the way through to this stuff, which is like a gateway into like, this is my gateway into like hyper technical, hyper abstract, like Autechre through IDME through like Orange Milky, like aggressively composed sound design.
I think I had the opposite trajectory. I think like my appreciation for Autechre kind of made me more able to appreciate Must Die. Like I listened to Neo Tokyo EP and I was like, this is fucking sick. It sounds like he's literally just scraping metal by my ears.
That was one of the first records you ever linked me. That record's fucking crazy.
It's so good.
Yeah, I mean, I like I said that at the same time as like if you were listening to any UK dubstep at the time, like you inevitably got fed the American stuff. So like I found it very funny when I think Ricky, you said your first.
Regs, I can't hear you.
Oh, check.
Oh no, Avery, I can't hear you.
Oh dear.
Oh no, can I hear you?
Oh no.
Oh no, can anyone hear me?
He's dying.
Oh no.
Ricky, no.
Oh no, I can't hear you.
Come back to us.
Hold on.
Save him.
Oh shit.
Check.
I'm extending my
damn
paw.
Damn it, they were talking about such a good. They were on such a good poll. Fuck me. Hold on, is it still recording?
Ricky.
Okay.
Ricky, come back to us.
Oh
Check,
man.
Check. 1 2. Check 1 2.
Oh man.
This is like
I
that
have to
scene
do two
in
clap sings.
Kaku Picasso.
I don't want to do two clap sings.
good.
This shit fucking sucks, dude. Hold on.
That's a callback to a previous episode.
Kenkaku
Discord
Picasso
is
is a
requesting to
Japanese
access
manga
your
series
webcam.
written and
Shut
illustrated by Usamaro Furuya.
Okay, hi. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Check. Hello?
Okay.
I can hear you.
Alright, let's clap sync again. Something horrible happened.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
All right, I'm on time.is again. I think Wi-Fi cut out for a second or something. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Y'all are still recording, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's go 722. Or whatever 22.
Yeah.
Okay.
In it.
Did you reach a natural starting point while I was trapped in the void?
Not quite, but I know what I was in the middle of saying, so I can just finish that thought.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, just that if given I was listening to all that British dubstep and like inside that scene, it was evolving to be more like the American dubstep. There were like the Roscoes and the fucking Flux Pavilions of the world that were pushing the sound design envelope and sounding a lot more like the stuff that was happening in the States at the same time. I just found it really funny that, you know, Ricky, you said your first bit of Porter Robinson was Nurture. And
Yes.
Avery, was yours was Worlds, right?
Mine was Adventure by Madeon.
Okay. So, I mean, that drags it a bit further back, but like, I absolutely fucking remember like being a big deal for me personally when the Spitfire EP dropped and like getting to see like big fucking totemic super swords like as
Is that the one that we were very dismissive and mean about on the podcast?
Yeah, it's the like the one that is sort of hushed away that no one ever talks about now that
Okay.
I secretly think has got the
Porter
most
shame,
like
Porter shame, Porter
It's
shame.
it's the one that Porter was throwing shade to on Fellow Feeling.
yeah. So yeah,
Like,
like
wasn't it like scary when the album was good for a second?
Porter
That's what
Robinson-
happens when you let the full ugliness out.
Porter Robinson male humiliation.
fucking hell. Hey, what you
See,
want to know?
like
imagine
imagine if like at the end of like Dream Extinction, if the spoken word bit in Equinox was like Alexander Panos being like, oh,
Can I just call this episode Nurture 2? I don't feel like typing in all the album titles.
It's still not that long.
wasn't that scary when I let the ugliness out on that previous that previous song? That was really messed up.
Oh, I just had to let the alpha out for a second. I'm sorry.
But it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to. We do not have to live in a world of ugliness for once.
For what? Bear Granite.
Bear Granite.
Bear Granite.
All of this is to say that like extreme is such a weird thing in my mind because the things that are difficult to listen to seem very perverse to people who've taken the trajectories that like actually see metal as normal and dubstep as like an internally grown thing, where for me it's like, one, not a thing I've had any personal contact with, and two, a weird distortion of a thing that is like my like local cultural vernacular. And like both of those are such bizarre ways of approaching a thing.
World where
that,
being
like,
gay is normal and straight is not the norm.
Exactly. We found straight people. It was bizarre. Like I cannot live with this. Speaking of gay people.
Speaking of gay people, we got there. This is a good episode.
I have exactly one take about Halcyon Digest.
Yeah. Regs. Regs.
So
Let's vamp.
I owned a copy of DDR Max for the PlayStation 2 when I was young.
Holy shit.
And
Good start.
I played it a lot. And one of the songs on that track list, I did not know it was a cover, but it is a vocal trance cover of Ordinary World by Duran Duran.
Okay.
And it slaps. It's so fucking good. All this to say, I think I could make a really good vocal trance cover of Desire Lines.
I mean, it is. If there are any tracks that are like 80s new wave bangers, Desire Line's the one, right?
Yes. Yeah. There's a couple like.
Yeah, there are candidates.
There's a couple sleazy hits. Okay, yeah. Talk to me about Deer Hunter, Regs.
So Deer Hunter is a Atlanta-based band. The backline's changed a little bit over the years, but important people are Bradford Cox, frontman, and Lockett Punt, guitarist. Their drummer Moses is stuck through the band's history, and their bassist has changed a bit. This is kind of their critical peak. This was at the time like Pitchfork Album of the Year contender. This got a lot of love and a lot of attention. Mostly at the time framed as the same. It's got the same producer as Merryweather Post Pavilion.
Okay.
Yeah. The connections that you made to Animal Collective are very real and very on the surface.
I'm sorry I called it. I'm sorry I said that. It sounded like feels.
No, it does. It very literally does, and that's.
I disagree. It does not sound like feels.
There's a 10-second stretch that sounds like feels.
Yeah, it's spots that just like, oh, you've landed on the same ways of fucking up your guitars, and
there are some parts that sound marginally like Flesh Canoe.
Yes, that's it. You're exactly right.
You landed on it. Yeah, but yeah, so like this is a band in like not quite in full connection to the like big like East Coast indie stuff, but very much like riffing off the same work, making sort of a noise rocky, sort of a dream poppy, sort of a post rocky like album that I think at the time got viewed very much in terms of like, oh wow, they managed to make this kind of thing like half remembered and fragmentary and like fucking up its relationship to time a bunch, having before been a lot more explicitly like, like dream poppy. I think is probably I don't know. There are how you've like spliced the micro genres with Deer Hunter is like not the most interesting thing.
There's a lot of costuming going on with this.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. And the thing, like, there are all sorts of things that I'm interested about in this record. Like, first of all, this feels very much like it's a thing that happens later is Monomania and to some degree Wise and Everything Already Disappeared, like fully invest in like Americana and like American songwriting forms as like the place that they go. Like Monomania is an attempt to write like a really sleazy, straightforward like 60s rock record.
Oh, that might be the one for me then. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm sure there are other versions of Deer Hunter that are for other people. If you're into the post-rocky stuff, I think Microcastle is great. I think it's...
that's not for me. I'm going deep into the heartland. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But like, this is the thing. Halcyon Digest feels like it's riffing on a bunch of like bits of like folk country. It also feels like it's riffing on a bits of like classic American rock as like the formal stuff that it's leaning on, and then just like telling really fucked up interpersonal stories, or at least fragments of really fucked up interpersonal stories.
Yeah, that's the fucked up thing is like. How much it cosmetically commits to being this like kind of faithful throwback record, but how much it is talking about like in the lyrics it's talking about 2010 indie scene shit.
Yeah, no, like 100%.
Like, and there's a song. The song called "Basement Scene" is the most explicit one with that. But it's still talking about like very modern or 2010 modern kinds of like disinterest. Ennui, parking lot, like middle of the country parking lot type shit.
One of the reviews on Rate Your Music described it as being a bit like Revolver by the Beatles.
Ooh.
I have not listened to Revolver, but
that's
right,
interesting.
I think.
Yeah.
No, that's fun. Shout out whoever said that. Come on the podcast. Don't.
Yeah, like it's a record that I'm endlessly fascinated by because having lived with it for so long, I know it inside out, and I find it very hard to figure out what feels particular about it, and revisiting it and like close listening to it again, like just reminds me how strange its attempt to do this like weird out of time thing is, but it's specifically weird. But like specifically like this like callback to a very like I'm trying to remember, there was it Mapplethorpe something? Like there is a very specifically like scuzzy 80s attitude to queerness that's happening on this record, that like this like unreformed, like unaccepting and like really psychically torturous attitude to queerness that just like infects this whole record, and its attitude to like past and future. Like
guy plays one show at CBGB's and then dies in like some kind of shallow ditch a couple weeks later type shit.
Yeah, exactly.
This doesn't sound like any particular Animal Collective album, but it has that element where they are doing world building with the mixing and production of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
This album takes place in the middle of a field at night.
It's
Basement Scene literally
drugged somewhere.
Yeah. Basement Scene was literally engineered by a 14-year-old in a basement in order to capture the basement vibe. Like,
Fuck
that was
yeah.
a fully deliberate choice. So, yeah.
Yeah. There's so much. Yeah. I listened to this record when I was like 12 and it bounced off me completely. And that was my only experience with Deer Hunter for a long time. I was really happy you recommended this though, because one way that I was approaching this record was I didn't realize I was listening to a lot of the Shoo drunk commentaries, which people illegally post on YouTube sometimes, and I listen to before they get taken down. I didn't realize that a lot of the Deer Hunter guys were like some of the people who were frequently involved with Shoo.
Yeah.
And like I'm still kind of in the process of trying to figure out what the Shoo thing is and how they sound, but it's definitely like enriched by this kind of like.
There was a stretch when I was 14 or 15 where Apostat Commander was my favorite song.
No, especially on the early stuff, like A Promise, and I don't know how involved Deer Hunter was with that, but I get why they were drawn to the band because, like, especially with early Shoo, it's like it has a similar approach to defining space, defining contour, really trying to set a very specific mood with each individual track, while still having the album sound kind of similar throughout on the whole. There's a lot of songs on this record that sounds like other songs on the record, and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I disagree. I think this album was pretty diverse.
No,
actually
there's a couple types of songs.
I mean that's where I think like the Revolver comparison makes the most sense. That every track has kind of a different use of its palette. Like on the surface, maybe Revival and Coronado sound a bit similar, but Coronado has a sax and Revival has I think a 12-string guitar. It's glittery. And also Revival is near the beginning of the album and Coronado is the penultimate track.
Yeah, no, it's super well balanced.
It's got a bit of a Life of Pablo-esque symmetry.
I love Earthquake as the opener.
Yeah.
Earthquake is such a smart opener of like having the heaviest, headiest, like most kind of narcotic song on the record as the intro track. Maybe not the most narcotic on the record, but it's like it's such like a downbeat to start on. I like
Earthquake as the opener. I hate Don't Cry as the second track.
I specifically love that it like fucking forces you into like, okay, now we're just playing a fucking old rock track.
I just threw up in the bathroom. I'm back in the club.
my experience, like the cultural shorthand I gleaned from Don't Cry was not like an old school rock track. I just heard like all the other kids with the pumped up kicks. Like it just sounded like jangly indie rock.
I think that is because I'm gesturing towards Avery with my big hand. Because we did not have the same experience that Regs had of like listening to what we now know as we are oversaturated with as the jangly indie rock sound. Like this record does sound like it came out like 2 years ago, which is fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's weird. Like I simultaneously feel like
at best it sounds like it came out in 2012.
Hey.
No, I'm fully okay with this sounding old. Like the amount of like radio like slapback delay on the vocals. Like there are a bunch of like production decisions that are trying to make this like stylish and sleek version of a, you know, New York club scene record that like don't translate. Like you wouldn't do this record the same way anymore. But like I think that's mostly fair. Because you would never write this record in the first place anymore. Like partly I think like you wouldn't be writing rock songs that sound like this. Like no one is listening to them in earnest.
This is the record that fucks the most from today's talk. Like this is this is like you're right that it is like too sexy to be like a lot of modern indie rock stuff. Like it's like very, very fully like
it has spilled too many drinks on his leather jacket. Yeah. Well, I mean, the other part of this, like completely coincidentally, Bradford Cox describes himself as asexual. I think he is still a virgin.
Interesting.
Like biography stuff is interesting with them, but like on a.
What are you doing?
I'm just listening.
Nothing.
But yeah, like on a basic level, this like has a kind of weird, unreformed like kind of fucked relationship to queerness that I just don't think people write in an interesting way anymore. Like I think about like
I should clarify, when I say sex, I don't mean like penetrative sex. I more so mean just like the aura of sex and sexuality and spatial awareness and body.
I think like that's exactly it. It doesn't like it's not contraindicated at all by the describing Bradford as ace or whatever. Like this is just like a funny little side note in a story that's absolutely about queerness and about sexuality. But just like I think about like Baths, Perfume Genius, and I sort of run out. And
Perfume Genius is so good for this.
Like the last couple of records of Perfume Genius like get like Set Fire to Me. Like that's absolutely a record that like comes to mind as like a modern update of the sorts of aesthetics that are going on here. But like
I would have listened to Perfume Genius a lot earlier if people told me he fucked. Nobody told me this until recently.
Yeah, he does kind of fuck.
Perfume Genius has made a couple Dog Boy albums in his time.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. Oh my god, have you heard Set My Heart on Fire Immediately?
I have not. I have not heard anything besides the one that he said was inspired by kimono art.
Oh no, that's Baths.
Wait.
Okay, Baths. Okay, no. Okay, this is the one that was inspired by kimono art.
I mixed up Baths and Perfume Genius.
This
is fine.
We said them close to each other.
Yeah, a lot of people will do this already. It's fine. But like all of this is to say that like there are so few lanes for this kind of like dealing with the psychodrama of queerness in music in a very like old school way of like not even like minimal acceptance, but just like making it a fucking struggle. Like this album feels fucking gripped by its own psychology in a way that like so few others do, and it doesn't do that
down
by
to
like
the way where the last track just kind of like cuts off. Like it just the way this record just starts and stops. It's so harsh.
Yeah, this album is somehow in its own head by storytelling about this like quite vividly depicted like underground seedy world of like kind of sex and kind of drugs and kind of like weird half-heard stories about half-heard legends that you heard that like the guy is definitely run out of town now or may have died but no one's really sure. Like the whole like dramatic persona, the album like very much feels like the ghosts of people who have informed the ways your sexuality and personhood should be and might be and could be if you just found them in the flesh, found them in the right moment. God. Like all these sorts of like sliding doors.
The gay void, the void that's the void left by a lost generation.
Yeah, no, I mean like this is absolutely as well like a fucking like a post-AIDS album reaching back to AIDS era politics and culture in queer life. Like that's 100%
like
a thing.
It definitely, I think that's what I mean when I talk about sexuality in the sense of like touching on the void in that particularly gay way of just like compounding the normal way that America makes you feel like you're in between two places no matter what place that you're in.
Yeah.
While also having the people who are most similar to you be separated from you by firstly genocidal forces and secondly like just time, feeling like you missed something.
On all three listens of this that I gave it, I did not parse any of the lyrics even though I was reading them.
That's fair. No, I mean that happens sometimes.
It does. Yeah. Just like drilling down, like Earthquake is, you described it as the most narcotic track on the album. I think that's totally right. I think personally, just because I love Microcastle, like that's probably my favorite Deer Hunter record. It's not the one that like is narratively most interesting for our purposes, but it's like very much more like spacey and like, you know, ambient punk is probably the like catchy 2-word way of describing it. And Earthquake like drags that but into monochrome, drags that but into fucking, oh, we're in a place and time, and it is far less like abstracted and far less, you know, permissive. And instead is like about that fucking morning after sensation that absolutely fucking stings. I very much love Earthquake is that like kind of fucked up.
I guess it's kind of cheesy to describe it records as like hangover records, but it is definitely a hangover record.
It starts at least with a hangover track, but I think like immediately heads back out onto some streets very fast. And I think that's kind of why I like Don't Cry as a track 2 sequencing choice. But yeah, it like sort of pinwheels back and forth between like, again, like I keep saying like weird like distortions of American radio tracks, or at least like radio tracks imagined to like be dragged back from various different epochs. Like Revival absolutely is a jangle pop track, but with enough like, I don't know, added poison and added like, you know, I keep thinking about the like very subtle grit or like fuzz on the bass line that like only pokes in very, very subtly, but just like separates it, makes it feel, you know, lurching and uneasy in a way that like I very much appreciate. But yeah, there are just a couple of like very important moments. Like Memory Boy is about, I feel like it's a boy about, that October he came over every day, the smell of loose leaf joints and jeans, and we would play. Like that's about the boy crashing on your couch in Earthquake. Like that I just believe in my heart.
Yeah, that's also such like a Velvet Underground way of talking about gay sex also. Exactly. Or just gay intimacy.
Exactly. Desire Lines is one of the tracks where Lockett Punt, the other guitarist, is singing, and again has this like slightly less queer performance. Like it's less like, again, like like spitting into the mic, like performing into the mic.
I never noticed when other people sang on albums besides the main singer. I thought it was the same guy the whole time.
Yeah, unfortunately,
it took me a really long time to realize that Animal Collective like kind of tossed songs back between Panda and AV.
I remember like, you like the really early, one of your like really early tweets was just like you could tell what songs that you could tell what songs Panda Bear sings because you could hear the other members of the band in the background trying to make him sound like shit less.
I don't remember that tweet.
I remember that tweet.
But yeah, like this track feels like it's commenting on the rest of an album slightly at a higher, like from a higher height, from a distance. Like it feels like a commentary about the album that's sort of swelling around it and underneath it. I don't know if that's a metaphor that like lands on other people, but like it's like it's emotionally held together in a ways that most of these other tracks aren't. They are like far too bright and far too intimate and far too close and far too emotionally intense. But yeah, Desire Lines is also the track that like spills out into this like 3 minutes of like really repetitious post-punky noise. Well, when they play it live, this turns into like 8 minutes often of like.
Have you seen them live?
Desire Lines is a very straight acting song.
Again, straight acting is very important. It's got to be that like we all have to like manage ourselves emotionally in this space so that we earn the right in the next 8 minutes to like play this very circular three bar loop over and over again until that
improves my interpretation that it would make a really good vocal trance song.
Oh yeah.
Yes. You should do that.
I want to hear this now. Absolutely. But yeah, like this is the like hypnotic wig out. Like I have seen them play live like 6 or 7 times at this point. They are.
Got you.
Like there are a couple tracks through their discography that just like lean themselves to these like codas that stretch on for minutes, like up to 10 minutes or something. Where like, you know, you get the drummer locked in a groove, you get the bassist playing a short riff, and the guitars just like build in texture and build in intensity, And
men
like,
love
slowly,
doing things like this.
yeah, it gets looser and looser and starts like falling over into itself. But again, while still fundamentally being a track with like motoric post-punk drums and very like grounded bass, like it's containing its song structure in a like perfect post-punk way that I love and appreciate and will always like cling to as like a very beautiful way of getting this like repetitious, like ecstatic feature or quality in the rock music I like. Bass and Scene I already mentioned was engineered by a 14-year-old, and I love it for that.
Fuck yeah.
And then let's talk about fucking Helicopter.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Oh my
Spooky
god.
track.
So yeah, I mean, I just wanted to ask before you like, I don't know if you did any background diving, if you caught anything about this, or just like connected with the lyrics in any way. Like, I just want to ask up front if it like gave you images before I like give you the backstory.
Let me pull up lyrics real quick. I was doing sleuthing while you were talking about like the record that released their first record, which is listed on Discogs is not as the actual title of it because it has the faggot word in the actual title of it.
It does have the faggot slur in there.
With great album title. I want to listen to that, but
it's
that
not
label,
as good as the other stuff afterwards. But it's very important that that's where they come from.
Yeah, no, I was checking. I was poking around the label. Like it's the same label that did the original CD pressings of like I Would Set Myself on Fire for You's 2 records, which is so funny to me. Like just
funny
this,
in
like,
what way? I'm interested. I don't know the context of it.
I Would Set Myself on Fire for You is like they're like really really heavy, orchestrated screamo type shit. So it's like really really heavy screamo that will just occasionally have like a big string section come in sometimes, or like a saxophone thing come in. And I don't know. It like it's funny in the sense that it's such a different album, but it makes so much sense that they would get their start on the same label as as Deer Hunter.
Unfortunately, Helicopter is one of the songs where Spotify did not load the lyrics.
Cringe.
What? Fuck that. In that case, I just get to tell you the story, which is
go for it.
Bradford Cox reading about like a Russian teenager who like is obsessed with fashion, is queer, runs away from home, ends up in St. Petersburg, basically being the sort of live-in partner of much older like fashion photographer.
Oh, okay. This is already reading scary.
Yeah, eventually ending up basically in like as the sort of like plaything of a bunch of like, you know, mafia types and pornography producers. Like does a lot of like film sex work and like a lot of just basically being abused by powerful men. And then the apocryphal story is that the reason it's called Helicopter is that at some point when he dies, or like in order to get rid of him, he gets dumped out of a helicopter somewhere in northern Russia.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
And like this, like, hey,
that strengthens the shoo connection.
Yeah, it's very brutal and very straightforwardly like interested in that moment of fucking obliteration.
This is the one moment of songwriting that like I remembered after just one listening.
Yeah,
like,
it's clearly the most compelling single moment in the album, and it builds around it very clearly.
I like the sparkles very much.
Yeah, tying that into like missing gay, very literal manifestation of like a missing gay childhood.
Yeah,
of like being trapped in larger systems, feeling like you're imitating something, posing, posturing, flexing. Ugh.
I will leave the write-up that apparently inspired the story there. You can link it if you want to.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'll drop it in the description.
Yeah, it's fucking rough, but like this is the like emotional world that he's dragging from. It's like lost members of his own scene, lost kids like striving for like fashion scenes and art scenes around the world.
There's no way that you could ever have like a living connection with.
No.
Like even if they were alive, even if they were like, you know.
No, but you find somewhere in there the like psychodrama like lines up with yours, lines up with the kind of trajectories of like aloneness or like fucked up kinds of connection that you're like either addicted to or like fearful of. Yeah. That's exactly
the lights inside my cave. I'm tired of my pains. Yeah.
I mean, these drugs they play on me in terrible ways. They don't pay like they used to pay. I used to make it day to day. And then the final stanza verse is just like fucking heartbreaking.
Yeah.
While being like so blissfully beautiful and sparkly and like willing to like take this very indulgent, very pretty, slow, beautiful songwriting moment to just like let this like annihilate itself. And the outro just does. The outro just like spills out that way, giving that 30 seconds of pulling itself apart.
Yeah.
And yeah, the coda for this, like already mentioned, Coronado was like back to some of that like more 60s-y jangle pop stuff. This time with the sax.
Yeah. Wait, again, even more disconcerting now.
The sax is an incredibly penultimate instrument.
Yes.
Penultimate, not even in the like literal temporal and spatial ordering sense. It's just like that is the way of describing the saxophone as an instrument.
Yeah.
That's every single Destroyer record that I've heard has had that shit. Where
I'm autistic. I assign numbers to things, and also sometimes like spatial relations to things.
Yeah.
Like that is such a second to last song on an album instrument.
Yes.
It's so important. Yeah. And yeah, he would have loved this again. I need to pull up the thing again.
I always check out at that track.
Yeah, it ends with a tribute to Jay Retard, who had died pretty recently.
Okay.
Died in 2010. Also signed to
Jay Retard.
And yeah, like very much like reads as a tribute, but also like a love song to like all the like old lost people trying to find security in bits of the world that really don't fucking want to give it to them. And the kind of like I both love the weird way it spins out the first half of this like slow, again very old fashioned like storytelling, and then just like beat switches halfway through, just like gets very like plodding and falling over until it just like breaks. Takes a long time to break, but it just does eventually break.
Shattering, but not really concluding in a meaningful way.
Exactly. It's an album with so many weird slippages, and like I said, at the time, everyone talked about this exclusively in terms of memory and time, which like such a limited frame. Which like I'm shocked that they loved it as much as they did.
I guess because it's 2010 and everyone was on the hypnagogic hauntology shit.
Yeah.
Tiny mixtape, etc.
Yeah, as a full up like paid member of the Tiny Mixtape Hype Squad, like the way of talking works.
Card carrying member.
Yeah, no, 100%. Fucking there's a playlist on Tiny Mixtape somewhere which was how do you listen to Stockhausen? And in which I like did a 5-track
like Karl-Heinz Stockhausen?
Yeah, absolutely. And which I did a sort of 5-track like here is the history of like acousto electric music up to this point. In the classical tradition, and here's 5 things that sound a bit like the person writing it listened to Stockhausen, which included like Andy Stott and Autechre and whatever. Like,
I do not see the connection between Stockhausen and Autechre.
Just like imagine you're freaking out with synth sounds. Like I think it was very much that basic at that point. I don't philosophically or artistically think there's much directly connecting them, but they sure did freak on those synthesizers basically.
They made club music for a solid decade before ascending.
Oh yeah. But like I do think at some point they listened to Gesang of the Youngling and like thought, could we do that? But with like the like vocabulary we built up making,
I should ask Sean.
Sean,
like,
Sean, did you light up to Stockhausen? Sound off in the comments.
I mean, I'd be fascinated. Like Stockhausen clearly, like I think he's an arsehole. I think he's a dick. I'm going on a Stockhausen tangent. I keep fucking forgetting the guy's name, but one of his students who then like basically described the like avant-garde tradition and Stockhausen in particular as like paragons of bourgeois art who need to be destroyed in revolutionary fire, and just like wrote screed.
Was that Henry Flynn?
I mean, I need to look this up in real time.
No, he was mad at Lamont Young.
I mean, everyone deserves to be mad at Lamont Young as well.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But I think he was also mad about. Hold on.
I'm literally just like typing.
I'm definitely
bourgeois.
mixing people up in my head. But
yeah, Stockhausen serves imperialism. This looks right.
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah.
There we go. PDF is loading if it wants to. Cornelius Cardew. That sounds right.
Cornelius Cardew. Yeah.
There we fucking go. Like without wanting to get particularly like that brand of tanky about it. Like I think he's just fucking right. Like there's something like deeply distasteful about it. However,
like the way I've heard Regs talk about this before. You were talking about it in the context of like the way that Stockhausen approached uprooting the musical canon was by replacing one set of very rigid constrictive norms with another.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to do the relationship between IDM and Stockhausen, he literally did an interview at some point in his life where he listened to Aphex Twin and was like, he would be improved if he broke his rhythmic form more. He should listen to my work to learn how to break rhythmic form.
King.
I mean, yeah.
That's kind of cunt.
It's kind of cunt.
I mean,
it's kind of great.
Maybe like Aphex Twin would be good.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie.
I've been listening to the Analord. Some of those are okay.
But yeah, like on a basic level, like yeah, this if you want to go back in Hot Singles, it's a really wonderful episode with Lily about in particular. This is where the conversation happens about Callie Malone and Living Torch.
Yes.
Which is just a really fun conversation. And yeah, like that's where all of this comes up, and like the relationship between like, you know, art classical and like the arty end of pop, like pop as a form, and how like they've had very complex and difficult resolutions. But yeah, like paid a member of the Tiny Mixtape thing. The theory approach that says everything is about time actually only works when you've got stuff that's about time. And we've been like luckily blessed in an era that's been obsessed with like negotiating its relationship to historicity and futurity and like the experience of time. But like not everything is just about that, and like some of it varies. Like, hey, you fucking
what happens during that time?
Yeah,
what do the durations mean for the people and objects and things that are underneath it?
Exactly. And then very specifically, like also songs that are about like American cities or American clubs and the walks you go on between them and back to your home, and like the like forgetting the spatialized element is so bizarre and kind of like incredible.
Okay, Halcyon Digest is a lot like Vaporwave, but not in like the way that most people think it's like Vaporwave. I guess. Yeah.
It's not that it's hypnagogic, it's that it's about the uncanniness of particular kinds of abandoned or derelict or like emotionally fucked up spaces. Yeah.
Let's not do 3 things next time we have a guest on.
Okay. Oh, my alarm just went off. It's time for me to wake up for work.
Yeah. But yeah, like this is why Deer Hunter makes interesting music for boys, and they make music for kind of fucked up boys who go to the club and feel bad about it.
Yes. It's okay. It's okay, Avery. Next time we're just going to do Arches, which will require you to which you've decided you're rereading all of Echo and then have to read an entire separate route of a visual novel after that. So have fun.
Jesus fucking Christ.
For some reason, you're doing that. So have fun.
Because I never like read Echo after the update that made Chase not weird.
Yeah, he's not ugly anymore.
Oh, we don't love a visual novel that updates the character art to be not fucked up. I'm like,
okay, but Echo's a special case.
Have you seen Proto Raven?
Yeah, hold on.
No. He's actually just melting.
What I'm saying is that I'm in a not aborted, but at least temporarily paused playthrough of Umin Echo that is like absolutely playing on my mind right now. But there was like, without a question, I like flicked back and forth between the sprite options and like settled on the original ones because like, no, we don't unfuck up, incredibly expressive, kind of fucked sprite design. Like, you just
I
don't do that.
understand, but Echo went through several iterations of fucked up looking sprites before arriving at the current fucked up looking sprites that work really well for it.
Put DreamWorks Leo on screen for a second.
Okay. Once I don't want to put it on screen. It's a
Live furry reaction.
live furry reaction. God damn it! I'm trying to find this. Give me a second. Oh my god. Okay, I'll post normal Leo so you could get accustomed to normal Leo. So this is the Leo that's in the final version of the game. You know, large man.
Okay.
He's beautiful. He has a large tummy, exfoliated, etc. Oh man, I'm gonna have to cut around a little bit trying to find early build Leo. There he is. When Echo was first being released, this is a really crusty picture, but I'm gonna post it anyway.
Do it.
Leo looked like this.
Oh. Ooh.
That is actually not the DreamWorks Leo that I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, there's a worse one before this as well.
Yeah,
This one's kind of goofy. I'm trying to find DreamWorks Leo.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
doesn't have the like homely, soft, and also like powerful vibe. He just looks like a kind of like cheeky hamster who's like overgrown a bit in places. Like, this is not a good look.
It's not good.
He's a very Deer Hunter Desire Lines type man.
Wow.
He's warping. These sprites would not have worked for the Embrace reveal. Okay, here, I could post like the new version of Chase at least. If you find early build Leo, I'd be fine to post that as well at some point, but okay.
I'm uploading DreamWorks Leo. Okay, I accidentally downloaded it before it was like loaded fully, so it got all crunched up.
Okay. No.
We don't need it additionally fucked up. It's fighting a difficult battle as it is.
Fighting for his fucking life.
Okay, this is what I was talking about.
That's just a different character.
Yeah.
That's just a different person.
It's just not the dude. It's just not right.
No.
I think this was more concept art than actual implementation, but I think there might have been a build where it was just this at one point. But yeah, here's Chase's upgrade for reference. This is the one we were talking about. Left is the old one, right is the new one.
Yeah.
He's less fucking pudgy
now,
which is kind of lame because I do like him just being a big noodle, but I mean I could live with this Chase, you know?
Yeah, he sharpened up a bit.
Yeah. Every character in this game is dressed like shit, and that's part of why it's good.
Just no fashion sense whatsoever.
Flynn looks like
It's a game. It's a game
Flynn's
about.
outfit is fucking insane.
It's a game
It is
about.
insane that.
It's a game about queer people with no taste.
Yes,
Who are thus
and because of that, queer people whose lack of taste prevents them from escaping samsara. Here's Flynn.
Yeesh. That's a cruel fucking fate. Ooh.
Many such cases.
Yeah.
Love how the artist just can't decide whether Flynn has a mohawk or not.
It's so cute. I love Flynn.
Also, just like the ways in which the different buttons are bulging, just like very important. Like they thought a lot about the button bulges.
Yeah, but there is stink on it though. That's what I'm saying. It's not like Yumineko where they're trying to get rid of the stink.
Yes.
I said I was going to become a Yumineko guy, and then I didn't.
I'm waiting for you to join me. I've got 4 chapters left to play.
I've been working.
I'm unimpressed by the boys in Yumineko.
In Yumineko?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Here,
let's get into plugs. I don't have anything to plug because I'm working fucking 50 hours a week. Next.
Guess that's me. You can find me on Twitter at Regresssion with 3 S's. If you click around there, you'll probably find most of what I do. But the thing to direct people towards is the podcast Hot Singles, which you can find in RSS feeds of all shapes and stripes. Shapes and sizes? I'm not sure what I was going for with that description.
Lengths, girths.
And yeah, exactly. So many different
yo.
physical embodiments. It's linked on my Twitter, but also if you want to find it in a neatly packaged Patreon feed and want to chip in to get it early, $1 gets it you a week early, and that's exportwood.io.
Hell yeah. That's a good URL.
Listen to Nascent by Alexander Panos.
Yeah.
But more importantly, send it to all of your friends who are animals.
Yes.
Doing the good work.
Read Arches. Start reading Arches now if you want to follow along next time. Because there's a lot of... It's not like a lot. It's about the length of one of the roots in Echo. But it's still like one of the roots in Echo.
If we're doing media recommendations, read the book Transgender Marxism, edited by L. O'Rourke and Jules Gleason.
Hell yeah. Okay, let's just sound off some shit we've been listening to. Check out Magnolia Electric Company Josephine. Check out Fatale by Pedestrian Deposit. Just whatever, you know. Check out the classic style chicken sandwich from Popeyes.
Look, like, I'm in one of those phases where I find out that, like, it's been a while since I've played Cookie Clicker, and they added an update.
Whoa.
So I'm kind of like just not in
What did they do to Grandma?
I'm not in a media consuming mode.
What has happened to Grandma? What have they done?
Yeah.
What did they add?
Oh, no.
There are 2 new buildings since I last played.
2 new buildings? What do you do with 2 new buildings?
You make more cookies. I don't even know what they are.
guess...
Like I've purposefully unspoiled myself because they've already broken the 4th wall. Like they added the JavaScript console, which is hacking more cookies into the game, and then they added the Idleverse, which is like siphoning cookies from other instances of the game. And apparently there are 2 more now. And I don't know what they are. Do not spoil it in the comments.
Yeah.
Sound off.
If I get to do my what I've been listening to plugs, listen to the discography of Ryuichi Sakamoto, which might be a feature hot singles episode, which
Shout
I'm
out.
very excited for. If there's like an album like Chasm 2004, I think underrated, needs some respect on its
Listen
name.
to Vriun.
Yeah, the fucking Alvanota collabs are incredible. Listen to 70386 entire discography. Like if you want the like tasteful version of the Orange Milk Core, but
I should be on hot singles.
Ooh.
Do you want to kick your way on? Do you want to bully?
Damn, if you want to fucking come on and talk about that, but yeah. Listen to Homeless N-Word Pop Music by Jim Legacy, which is probably my album of the year so far. Yeah, it's really fucking good, and you should listen to it.
Yes, you should.
Is there anything else on the list?
A couple days ago,
Stan Eugenes.
Stan Eugenes. Yeah.
I am so tired. I'm
transferring...
about to die.
When I transferred my bank,
it has been 2.5 hours.
When I transferred my bank over from TD Bank to PNC Bank recently, I walked around on gravel for the first time in a while. That was really cool.
Oh, hell yeah.
Like I was waiting outside for the bank to open.
Patrick,
I'm gonna press stop.
do not take 8 years to edit this.